Short horror stories found on the internet. About 10 years ago, my family and I were up in the White Mountains of Arizona to cut down our Christmas tree. My dad was driving our truck with my grandpa in the front seat and my mom and sister in the back seat. I was in the bed of the truck along with our family's German short-haired pointer. We were driving along a forest road and all of a sudden my dog starts barking and growling. So I look at what it is that he is barking at, thinking it is maybe a bear or a mountain lion or some sort. What I saw was a tall, dark figure walking parallel to the road about 60 to 70 yards away. I yelled at my dad to stop the truck. When I told him I think I see a Bigfoot, he just laughed and continued to drive. When I looked back to get another look at it, the figure changed directions and was walking away from the road. The last thing I saw was the thing's head disappearing down a hill. To this day, I do not have an explanation for what I saw. Every time the situation comes up, my dad always makes me tell everyone my story so he can laugh at it. Right. This story is from TR Todd 75. My folks and I were cruising the waters of Howe Sound during a weekend. We were out to catch the ever elusive salmon, but little did we know we would get more than what we bargained for. At the south end of Gambier Island, there are 3 bays. One of these is Center Bay, and the north end of it is a wharf owned by an exclusive yacht club in Vancouver. We tied up, intending to explore the property and sleep overnight before bugging out first thing in the morning. Dad went to check out the property, and within a few minutes I followed. I went inside the house and found it in total ruins. Heading to check out the rear of the house, I heard 3 ape-like noises behind me. Figuring it was Dad, I told him to give it a rest. However, a few minutes later I saw Dad on the wharf talking to Mom. Knowing something didn't add up, I wanted to quiz Dad on his whereabouts, but refrained. Later, I took a hike beyond the house and found a trail that led to a number of fruit trees and an abandoned orchard. Wondering if any fruit was there on the trees, I got in among the trees. Reacting to a feeling of being watched, I turned and saw something that looked 2 or 3 seconds to register. Standing about 50 to 60 yards away was a creature standing about 7 feet high and weighing several hundred pounds. You were right. It was a Sasquatch. This spooked me. We looked at each other for a few moments before the Sasquatch moved into the deeper forest. He was just interested in keeping an eye on me. After sunset, I called Dad out to the back of the boat. I heard the same ape noises from earlier in the day on a nearby rocky slope. For several minutes, Dad and I heard Sasquatch splashing in the water. It was having a great time in doing so. Just in case of further contact, I slept with one eye open that entire night. This story is from Ron M. Paranormal About Story Archives, July 1999. We used to live in a really old part of my town. Now when I say old, I mean 1700s old. A lot of old torn down buildings and a lot of boarded up houses. When I was about 11, We lived in this super old duplex. But, there was 4 apartments instead of 2. And my neighbor Max was to the right of us. Now, one night, Max and myself were skipping rocks on the abandoned railroad tracks behind the local VFW. No one ever really went to the tracks, and there was a lot of trash from the homeless people who once occupied the area. As we were walking down the tracks, I hear yelling, like someone is in a heated argument, like super angry. Well, it starts to get dark and the yelling gets louder. Max freaked out at this point because it's so silent outside. You would hear a needle drop, but instead, all you hear is yelling. All of a sudden, I hear Max scream and turn to see him being pulled by the legs down the track. I race after him and scream for whatever it was pulling him to stop. Stop it. I felt like my heart was going to pop out my chest, and then I jumped in and, I held Max and we go rolling off the train tracks down into the woods. Max then yells to me and asks if I'm okay, and as I look at him and to respond, I notice this little tent to the far right, tucked under some logs and broken down trees. Thankfully, Max has his flashlight, and we look inside. Never in my life have I seen something this gruesome. It was this shriveled body of a man, his skin hanging off, and the smell so unbearable that I began to heave. I fall back to throw up, and this dead guy grabs my ankle and poked it out of there. I ran so fast I didn't even look back. I heard Max yelling my name and screaming. This thing was chasing us. We ran past the VFW, down the alley and into Max's yards and into his house, where we locked every door and window. We barricaded his room and cowered under his bed, and then Max's parents were out that night, so they weren't around for all of this. For the next 2 hours, this thing banged on the doors so hard we thought the doors would give away. Eventually, we fell asleep and woke up when his parents got home. We vowed to never speak of it to anyone, ever. The story was from Winter Fairs.